So, welcome back to 3rd Age Reforged and to the Woodland realm, or, well, Thranduil's Halls, the map to be more specific, and this is probably the map that I've shown most out of any map in 3rd Age Reforged, and I was actually going to save this one a little bit longer than I was going to keep it in reserve for a little bit longer, but unfortunately the scenario I was going to show, I was simultaneously given the wrong version of it, so there were some weird things that were happening during the battle which I don't think the players involved would make those kind of moves. And also the fact that it would crash at exactly the same point every time during when I tried to record it. So very, very frustrating for me. Maybe I'll be able to do that scenario at some point in the future, but based on the current version of it, whoever sent it to me, I'm sure I'll look it up after I've done this one, but I'm sorry, I won't be able to do it. It crashes and it's the wrong version. But as it is, we will be having a look at Thranduil's Halls, and this one was sent to me by Froggy. He's going to be playing as Isengard, so we'll have a look at the blue team first. We'll go through the army competition relatively quickly, mainly because I've done a lot of recording today and I want to get the initial phases out of the way so we can get into the battle as quickly as we can. So we've got some Snargus skirmishers here at the front with some nice AP missiles. We've got some Dunland veterans and some Uruk-hai archers all together in this line, staked to prevent a cavalry rush from the start, I suppose. Dunland clansmen, which can be good at dealing with cavalry, other than that they're just sort of basic militia spears. And some Uruk-hai infantry with the armour upgrade, some Uruk-hai reavers. Just in behind here we can see the Isengard ballista, very, very good in a siege situation like this. Some Dunland clansmen. And then finally we have a combination of Nazkai, Lurt's hunting pack, and Guards of Orthanc. And we can see Saruman is over here as well. Here in the middle we can see Rune, played by Schmiedgas22. I'm really sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. We've got some Carmel's Chosen, a lot of Loka units, so we've got some Flagrim and some Gamprim, lots of AP. We've also got some Innisrim, which in this situation is an interesting choice. Lancers, not very many opportunities for them to do their thing, but we'll see. Narim, some Eastron crossbows, some Carmel's Dragon Knights, and a Ballista as well. Carmel's Dragon Knights being the general's unit. And then finally, we have the Witch Realm of Angmar, played by the Steward of Dale. And he has got a front line of Guardians of Kharndoom, if I get into the right position. With the jet black armour upgrades, they're going to be doubly effective. Same story with the Witch Realm Pikemen, Blackwatch Legion, Witch Realm Scourge Raiders, so he's gone for a quality approach rather than quantity. Witch Realm Hammer Guard and Blackguard, and then finally we've got the Witch Realm Inquisitors as well with the Witch King. But the General's Bodyguard is actually going to be the Witch Realm Blackguard. Now, for the red team, the defenders in this situation, we have the Dwarves of Khazad-dûm, played by Fruity Lexia, and going to be playing as the Dwarves of Khazad-dûm. So we've got some 1st Legion Pikes up here on the hill. 2 units of them, very, very good at holding the line. Some 2nd Legion Axe Guard. And just down here I imagine Khazad-dûm have brought all of their elite stuff. So we've got the Mithril Guard, we've got the Legion Bodyguard, we have got the Guards of Khazad-dûm, Sons of the Fallen, 4th Legion, all of the good stuff. Warriors of Khazad-dûm is more basic, but even so, also got some hammers. So yeah, obviously individually these units are going to be very, very difficult to punch their way through. Traditionally, however, Thranduil's Halls is an ideal map for using your skirmishers on, but the Orc Hunters, they'll do okay, but Khazad-dûm obviously definitely not the most skirmish-focused faction in the world. Linden, on the other hand, being elves, can certainly engage in such things. They've got some Harlinden Guard up here on the sort of natural wall, 4 Linden Archers and Mithlon Pikemen over here, and then over here we've got some more Mithlon Pikemen, some Harlinden Infantry, some Harlinden Guard, and a High Elven Ballista, which could be very, very handy for dealing with the Isengard one. The General is back here in a unit of Noldorin Blade Masters, so the Bearded Elf will be hanging out over here, and there will undoubtedly be units hidden in the trees over here. But I will begin, but I will make a little cut because it is going to take the attackers a little bit of time to sort of traverse the gorge and get into an attacking position, so I'll rejoin the battle when it starts in earnest. Rune are charging into battle very, very quickly by the looks of things, and they're paying dearly for it, because these units of Gamprim here are taking a real beating at the hands of the Woodland Realm Archers and also the Khazad-dûm Reclaimers, which are hidden up on this natural wall as well, so the axe throwers are going to be coming in. I'm very surprised that the Innisrim are all the way over here as well. They're not really going to have any ideal situation that they can charge into right from the start here. There are sort of spearmen, pikes, axes all on the front line with their AP. They might have a good opportunity here though, because there's a bit of a misclick going on here by Louis Hayes 1997, as he is about to be accosted by these Innisrim. So under normal circumstances I'd say the Innisrim had made a mistake coming forward so early, but they have managed to catch out these 4 Linden Archers. That's a good catch very, very early there for the Golden Runic Cavalry. I do like how aggressive the attackers are being though, because the temptation on this map honestly for the attackers is to try and drip feed their forces in and try and make the defenders waste their arrows. but this time they're just getting right down to business, charging right on in. Some Trolls of Gundabad over here as well. It's good to see the Gamprim finally getting into melee, because the longer they stayed there, the more they would have been damaged by the archers. And the Gamprim should do okay against these Dwarven Infantrymen, provided they're supported properly. And the Flagrim are coming in, so despite the fact this is a bit of a nasty blob situation to be in, I'm not sure what the Khazad-dûm Reclaimers are firing at, but I don't think it's the Runic front line. The Isengard Ballista is already taking pot shots over here at the High Elven Ballista. Now this, all of the good work that the Innis Rim did is immediately, he's almost certainly a new player based on these plays that he's making. He did a really good job at taking out those archers, but then he charged his cavalry right into a line that included stakes and Mithlond pikemen. So the Innis Rim, I don't think, will be coming back into this fight. They definitely need to save some of their cavalry so that when the initial front lines break down, as they often do on Thranduil's halls, the cavalry can then go around. This is a huge blob fight already going on here. The 1st Legion pikes going up against, well, with the support of the rest of the Khazad-dûm infantry in there, going up against the full force of the Runic line. And the Gamprim and the Flagrim will be pretty cost effective in this situation. They're also being backed up by Guardians of Khandu, but Rune hell-bent on going through the middle here. Rune being extremely aggressive. This line over here not being touched so far. Content to just sort of shoot some arrows in there, and that is coming from the Nar Rim. Rune in many ways being used as the sacrificial lambs here, but their hyper-aggression has yielded some positive results so far. Meanwhile, Linden are going to be attacked by the looks of things by the Witch Realm of Angmar, which again, that doesn't surprise me too much. The armour piercing from Rune is definitely not going to be useful against Linden, so much better to try and use it over here. Uruk-hai archers from Froggy already in here, doing some nice damage here to the 4 Linden archers. And obviously, archer to archer, Linden can be finding themselves at a little bit of a disadvantage quite a lot of the time, thanks to their lower armour values. But here come the Witch Realm's forces, the Steward of Dale. It's still going to be difficult for them to break down Linden, though. Linden's infantry is very, very skillful in spite of their lower armour values. The Trolls will really help in this situation, though. There's only 1 ballista left, and the Isengard Ballista is still firing, and I think all 4 of them are still alive, based on the sprites I can see in the distance, which is bad news. The last thing the defenders want is the Isengard Ballista active into the late game. You can also see here that the Dunlending veterans are supporting Angmar's advance, as well as the Trolls of Gundabad, so Linden are actually in a bit of trouble here. They need to be very, very careful. And they're already sending forward more reinforcements, which they desperately need, because the Trolls and Angmar in general, the Blackwatch Legion, already just bulldozing their way through. And a lot of people complain about the pushing power of units like this, but at this point in time, if people are still not prepared for this sort of eventuality of this happening, then that's on them, to be honest with you, because they've been a part of the game for long enough now that you really should be able to see this sort of thing coming. Especially considering the fact that they set up a sort of defensive line over here, but they didn't have any reinforcements in close proximity, so of course Angmar are going to be engaging in such tactics. Meanwhile, 1st Legion pikes able to keep this large blob of Runic infantry at bay, it must be said. The 1st Legion pike's one of the finest pikes in the game. They and the Narun Aru Sentinels are probably the 2 which duke it out for 2nd best pike, behind the Karas Galadhon's Guardians. Meanwhile, we've got some Khazad-dûm Reclaimers still up on the wall. We can see fire arrows being fired in. There's a lot of archers here from Linden, which might honestly be part of the problem. It might be that they simply don't have enough resources to actually reinforce this line too much. The ballista crew could always be sent in. And obviously the downside to the Blackwatch Legion is while they do push their way through the line very quickly, once they have done that they tend to die very fast. In a sustained fight they're not exactly the last word in terms of quality, and this will show most keenly against a unit like the Mithlond Swordmasters, where really the Blackwatch Legion's armour is going to be the only thing which really saves them. Meanwhile Froggy's still firing away, and it is worth saying as well that this does work both ways. I mean, there aren't any reinforcements directly on hand for the attackers over here either, so if this attack does run out of steam, they won't really have made any gains. The Trolls of Gundabad going in here to try and shut down these 4 Linden archers, having some success so far. Meanwhile, looks as though we're now going to start to see an advance on this side as well. 2nd Legion Axguard forming up the front line, as the Blackwatch Legion also pushing over here. The attackers have been very aggressive so far, which is probably why this battle is 34,000 frames and not like 48 or 50,000 frames, as Thranduil's Halls often can be. That was a ballista shot. Rune's ballista has moved up, trying to get some point-blank shots. But the melee fight has begun. With the 2nd Legion and the 1st Legion pikes over here, I imagine Khazad-dûm should be able to hold. I mean, the Blackwatch Legion are a bit of a problem, but there's a lot of armour-piercing infantry over here, and they've also got a secondary line of 4th Legion moving up as well, so in this sort of situation you would imagine the Blackwatch Legion are probably going to start to fall apart more quickly than they did on the other side, but let's sort of see and judge the course of this assault as it happens. Well, they are having an effect, but defeat does seem certain. They're hemorrhaging unit models pretty quickly, as will the pikes if they don't get into formation. They might be able to push their way all the way through, we'll see. Orkans are still over there. What's going on in the middle? This fight has been going on for quite some time at this point. And the 1st Legion pikes, it says defeat is a distinct possibility, but they are holding this horde of Runic and Angmar infantry at bay. There's arrows just coming down from on high, Uruk-hai infantry moving forward. Lokenar-Rip. More infantry being pushed forward, so they are keen to keep up the assault on this side, but let's go and have a look at what's happening over here. Reinforcements are now forthcoming. Froggy has sent forward lots of Uruk-hai infantry to help, as well as the Witch Realm Inquisitors, which is good because this assault was actually running out of steam. The Trolls died, Noldorin Guard were committed forward, lots of Mithlon Swordmasters and Harlingen infantry also committed forwards, and the Blackwatch Legion were spent. More Noldorin Guard, more Mithlon Swordmasters, so Linden's going all in here. They want to defend this position. Understandable, this Harlingen infantry is a little bit isolated, but they are going to be reinforced momentarily by some Noldorin Guard, which, needless to say, is going to be able to easily kill Dunland and Clansmen, and will be able to mop up Witch Realm Scourge Raiders with limited trouble. Yeah, over here Linden are actually having a lot of success, but then it is worth saying that Linden are able to focus their entire infantry force on one choke point, even if it is the wider one, whereas the Dwarves are having to sort of divide their attention between two. Here we can see that is the Isengard Ballista being put into a very deadly position. We've seen this before on Thranduil's Halls. Trying to defend this choke point is risky because enemy artillery can perch itself over on that cliff over there and fire into your lines. But so far, Khazad-dûm having some success. The Isengard Ballista is going for these elites over here, in particular going for the Mithril Guard, which are of course going to be a priority target. Their AP is going to be very, very useful against all of the attacking forces, even Rune, which have armour values a little bit lower than the likes of Angmar and Isengard when they've got their upgrades. Meanwhile, here in the middle we can see the Guardians of Kharn-dûm have made their way to the front, which is actually probably not what they want. They want the AP of the flag room on the front for as long a period of time as possible. But these 1st Legion definitely are holding the line resolutely so far. Khazad-dûm Reclaimers are over here as well as the 3rd Legion. This might be the first match on Thranduil's Halls we've seen in some time where the battle is decided fully in the first choke points rather than falling back to the halls. Here we can see the Witch Realm Inquisitors doing their best, but again they're going to have a limited impact because of their lower charge value and the fact that they have taken some losses already. But Linden's infantry force here, a scary sight indeed. They could start to counter-attack as soon as this assault is dealt with. Witch Realm Inquisitors will be able to do some damage of their own, but as I said, they are not traditional knights. They are melee knights, which are essentially just super versions of melee cavalry. Harlan and the Guard doing their best to get some more damage done. Some Snaga skirmishers heading over to try and help out against the Linden infantry, which is definitely where the attackers are having the most trouble. Meanwhile, against the divided infantry from the Dwarves, having a little bit more luck. The Carmel's Chosen are in here at this point, so they've got a genuinely hyper tier unit, or uber tier unit I should say, up here on the front, which should help out a lot. 4th Legion Shield Guard pushing towards the front once more. The Orc Hunters of Khazad-dûm, after using up all their ammo, have been committed to the front line. They're dual-wielding axe units as well, so they actually do have some decent skill to them, but they're not exactly going to be a match for some of these genuinely powerful infantry units, stuff like the Guardians of Kharn-dûm, which is still present in there. The Hammer Guard have also moved forward now as well, so the attackers are definitely not letting up. They want to destroy this outer defence as quickly as they possibly can. And indeed, that might be the whole battle. The Witch Realm Inquisitors are still able to cycle charge though. They might not be able to do as much damage as shock cavalry, but they do cause fear, although admittedly Linden are going to be able to stand up to that better, particularly with the presence of the Noldorin Guard. And they are very survivable, so they will be able to cycle charge for a fair amount of time. They're not really getting the best charges off, it must be said. 4 Linden archers just sort of being sent in to try and deal with it. If that was Harlingen Guard, their spears would be a big factor here. But yeah, pretty much everything has been thrown forward. I mean, there are still some reserves across the way. All of Isengard's elites are still over there, but Rune and Angmar have thrown themselves fully into this. Oof. This is pretty brutal. Some nasty friendly fire there as well, but definitely probably worth it overall. The attackers can definitely afford to just throw some of their units under the bus, especially if it means getting a unit of 1st Legion pikes out of the way. And that would force the committal of the Meteor Guard, of course, which the Isengard Ballista would be able to do the business on as well. Uruk-hai Reavers coming onto the front line, so that's more AP that the dwarves are having to deal with. We'll see what Lexia does. What's going on down here? You can see that more Isengard infantry has arrived on the front. The Carmel's chosen. Defeat actually seems certain at this point. Hammers of Gundabad and Khazad-dûm Reclaimers have been committed forward to the front. So that's more and more damage that they're going to be able to do. What's going on over here? Harland Guard now being committed forward. Those spears will actually be really useful for zoning out these Witchram Inquisitors, which over time will start to have an impact on this Linden infantry force. They really need to stop them. This unit of Linden Guard just needs to be used to zone them out at this point. But you would still imagine Linden are probably going to be okay. The Snaga skirmishers are using their ammunition, as are the Uruk-hai archers, but the Linden strength over here is still good enough, I think, to win this. You can see that a lot of the attacking units are not doing so well over on this front. But Linden have also taken a lot of attrition as a result of putting up such a sturdy defence. Of course, when the front line falls, the Carmel's Dragon Knights can slip in behind the enemy lines as well, and a unit of Knights which do have the big charge bonus of 20, as opposed to the Witchram Inquisitors, will be most welcome, I'm sure. The Isengard Ballista is not firing anymore. Maybe it's used up all of its ammunition, possible, seeing as it was in an artillery fight early on. Here we can see the Uruk Reavers trying to do their bit on the front line. The 1st Legion pikes, though, have definitely proven so far in this match why they are so good, because they've been able to hold against superior number forces for quite some time. Ones that would traditionally be quite good against the dwarves as well. The Legion Bodyguard, meanwhile, have been committed down here as well. So that is not an insubstantial unit they're going to have to fight their way through. I don't know where the guards of Khazad-dûm have gone.
Only half the enemy force remains.
Nolder and Blade Masters are over there. The guards of Khazad-dûm might be in here as well, although I can only see the Reclaimers, so I don't think they're in here. But yeah, this it says the attackers are going to have victory. I would question that quite a lot. I think the attackers are actually going to lose here in the middle to the dwarves. So far, the defenders, I mean, let's have a look at the percentage of kills. Yeah, the attackers are behind, but only just. And as we know, into the late game, the attackers can definitely start to pull it back pretty quickly. As the slog continues, Harland Guard presumably going after the Witchram Inquisitors, which are just sort of heading off into the distance. The Harland Guard can't afford to chase them too far, otherwise the cavalry will just give them the runaround. The Witchram Blackguard are being committed to the front line over here now, as well as presumably Snaga that are out of ammunition. But yeah, I think, you know, the Blackguard are very, very strong, and again, Linden will have been taking damage all the while, but the attackers have tried to keep up a solid, numerous assault on every choke point, and that might end up costing them in the long run. We'll see. Because they honestly don't have much in terms of reserves at this point. They've committed forward a lot. In fact, they've committed forward basically everything except this one unit of Uruk-hai archers at this point. So now all of Isengard's elites are coming forward. The Isengard Ballista crew is being committed to the fight, so they did indeed use all of their ammunition up. So yeah, I think this is going to be a battle that is decided fully in the outer defence. Here come the Dunman veterans. Another unit being committed forward. Good attack values, but ultimately going to be no match for Harland's infantry. Here come the guards of Orthanc, again, not exactly designed to kill things in a super timely fashion. The Lurt's hunting pack, however, with this body piercing, this could be just the thing they need. to start to turn this fight around as they start to... You can see the sprays of blood come up from the body-piercing projectiles there. Definitely going to be a necessity. And now Linden looking a little bit more ropey. Again, all it takes for this battle to swing in favour of the attackers is for one of these outer defences to start to crumble. Because that's when the House of Cards starts to come tumbling down on this map. You can see actually the Witch Realm Inquisitors are over here. This is maybe not the primest of targets. They do manage to kill some of the First Legion, but as soon as some of them turn around, that's going to be the end of what remains of those units. Victory is a distinct possibility for Lexia here on the front line. Meanwhile, over here, a little bit more up for debate. And the Hammer Guard is still here. Defeat is almost a certainty, though. Are the Mithril Guards still over here somewhere? There are some Sons of the Fallen ready to reinforce. But really, the First Legion have proven themselves to be the ideal anchor for a line. Resilient indeed. Yeah, the attackers might find themselves running out of resources as this fight goes on, but we're not even halfway through yet, so... In spite of all the action that has happened thus far, things could very easily turn around. Defeat is a distinct possibility. There's tons and tons of projectile fire coming in from the Uruk-hai archers and from the Alert Hunting Pack, which might be the turning point here. Froggy's play with his archers might be just what the attackers needed, because for the longest time over on this front, Linden have had it all their own way. Admittedly, the level of infantry they've got over here has fallen somewhat. They do have the Witch Realm Blackguard at the very least, but the rest of it's Snaga, Dunlanders. The Guards of Orthanc were okay, I suppose, but a lot of the Angmar forces that were over here have taken a real beating. Snaga skirmishers, using their sharp sticks to do as much damage as they possibly can to the Linden front line. There's the Uruk-hai archers. Here in the middle, the dwarves are starting to push back. The Hammers of Gundabad coming forward. It's really only Flag Rim at this point. And with this counter-attack, the attackers are having to commit forward out of ammunition skirmishers to try and hold the enemy at bay. Nar Rim. Not exactly a bad unit, but even so. Meanwhile, defeat seems certain over here as well, so while the attackers may be starting to push back against Linden, now the dwarves are starting to come into their own. Their resilience proving to be a real problem for the attackers. Do the attackers have enough in terms of resources to actually get through this? The Dragon Knights are still a big presence on the field, but not the easiest map to use them on, unless they can push through Linden somehow and start to get some really nasty hammer and anvil charges. The Uruk-hai archers over there, the Eastron crossbows are still alive. The Naz-kai is still a tough unit to bring down. Then again, the Noldorin Blade Masters for Linden are as well, and they haven't been committed just yet either. Really though, Linden are having to take a lot of arrows in the face here. Lots of arrow fire. Which on Blackguard, victory is a distinct possibility. What will Linden do with their Noldorin Blade Masters? Choosing the right time to commit them could be the difference between victory and defeat here. The Guards of Khazad-dûm are loitering with intent back there. The addition of the Nar Rim has at least stopped the Dwarven advance being quite so comprehensive. If the Dwarves don't commit forward all of their units here to help them, the addition of the Nar Rim might actually sort of shift this fight in favour of the runic player. Let's go and see over here. As we are more or less at the halfway point of this battle, let's have a look at the percentage of kills. And it's only a 5% difference in favour of the defenders, and if one of these front lines falls, you can bet that the attackers should be able to take full advantage of that. We'll see. I mean, they do have the Dragon Knights, which you would imagine the perfect unit to take advantage of a front line that collapses. I mean, honestly, they may as well commit themselves. They might as well try and use the Dragon Knights to get through the Linden line over there. The Dwarves still fighting resolutely. Still got Mithril Guard and Sons of the Fallen in reserve, though, which is bad news for the attackers. Not the easiest units to wear down, especially if all your elites have started to fall apart. But this is a big rout. This is a big turning point for the attackers. Lots of these Linden infantry units starting to rout off. And this is where the attackers can start to pour forwards now. The Noldorin Blade Masters commit themselves forward, but unfortunately for them, they are just going to get overwhelmed, and the Lert's Hunting Pack are now in the perfect position to shoot them from the side. Here we go. So the Noldorin Blade Masters, very, very scary in melee, but ultimately they are going to be put down like dogs here. And this will leave the Nazkai, well, one player has admitted defeat. And it's Lyndon. Oh, that's a loser's mentality. You still could have inflicted so many more casualties on the enemy if you used your men. That's disappointing. I'm disappointed in the Lyndon player for doing that. Meanwhile, we're on Blackguard. So now it's all down to the dwarves. With just under half the fight remaining, can the dwarves do the business? Well, they are counter-attacking out here, and to be fair, Fruity Alexia doesn't really have much of a choice at this point. Because otherwise, you know, the dwarven army will simply be surrounded and destroyed, so they need to effect some form of advance, and that looks like what they're doing in the middle. What will they do, I wonder? I mean, definitely now the advantage is in... The advantage will be for the attackers. It will be difficult to see how the dwarves can sort of survive all of this, especially seeing as Isengard has still got units like the Nazkai in perfect condition. Here come the dwarves of Khazad-dûm, or the guards of Khazad-dûm, I should say. They should be able to finish off this sort of resistance in the middle here. They do need to be careful of the Dragon Knights, which are still loitering. But yeah, I mean, Rune are really going to be kind of powerless to stop this advance. The Easterong crossbows will be able to do damage to the dwarves as they advance forward, but yeah, Narim are not going to be able to stop stuff like Guards of Khazad-dûm, especially when they're backed up by all of the units that they are. Meanwhile, over here, still some Hammerguard left alive, but they're fighting hard, but ultimately this attritional fight has favoured the dwarves in spite of those pot shots taken by the Isengard Ballista. And then back here we have the Mithril Guard and the Sons of the Fallen. So then, here come Isengard getting ready to envelop, and the Lert's Hunting Pack are starting to use their body-piercing projectiles.
They've lost half their men.
Which should be able to do some nice damage to all of these dwarven units. In particular, it looks like he's going for the Guards of Khazad-dûm, which is understandable considering how strong they are and how difficult they are to bring down under normal circumstances. Although I'd say the Nazkai stand a pretty good chance at this point. Isengard Ballista and Uruk-hai archers being sent forward. Considering the amount of time we've still got left in this battle, you can be sure that the dwarves are not going to go quietly into that good night. And as we saw in the previous battle against Angmar a few days back, they can dig their way out of pretty grim situations with how strong their infantry is. There's all these Sons of the Fallen and these Mithril Guard as well. Witcher-on Blackguard though. The Witcher-on Blackguard came out of that fight with Lyndon looking pretty good, honestly. 43. Not a bad return. They're definitely a very strong infantry unit, very popular to bring. But this frontline fight not going so well for the attackers. I mean, the Ballista is technically still alive for Rune, and they are going to be able to get it out of there, which is good news for them. But their infantry is falling apart. The Narim not doing so well. That is a shower of crossbow bolts coming in. And this is the problem, the dwarves are trapped like rats, really. They can only hope that their own resilience is enough to see them through. Strong crossbow. Again, the Dragon Knights are still the ace in the hole here. As soon as they have a clear target to charge into, you would imagine that would probably be that. And I think now, based on the fact that dwarves are basically split into two separate forces... No, actually. I thought they were going to try and focus down this area and then move on to this area, which honestly would not be a bad idea. Divide and conquer. The Lert's Hunting Pack. Victory seems certain for the 1st Legion Pikes. Again, unsurprising, they've definitely been the MVPs for the dwarves, in my opinion. They might not have the most kills, but their ability to hold the line is, you know, I was going to say second to none, but technically that's not true. Meanwhile, the Mithril Guard and the Sons of the Fallen getting ready to advance forwards. You want to be careful they don't get surrounded too easily. The Lert's Hunting Pack are not half bad in melee either. Obviously the Witcher-on Blackguard are very strong. That is a shot from the Runic Ballista, although it probably doesn't have the easiest of shots. It gets a few guards of Khazad-dûm though, definitely a worthwhile target. Snaga skirmishers there. Whatever happened to the Nazkai? Are they in here? Nope. Doesn't look like it. Runic Ballista doing its best to just sort of fire directly from the front. And still the dwarves just fighting hard. First Legion now turning around, so they're going to be fighting essentially back to back. And they should win on this front at some point or another. And that will allow, admittedly quite battered units to turn around. Oh dear. There goes Balin. At the hands of the Runic Ballista. So this Ballista coming in clutch here, but it is also causing some routing amongst their own ranks by the looks of things. Friendly fire, definitely not the sort of thing you want in this situation. The dwarves could very easily pull this out, I think. But you know, these Dragon Knights again, definitely the wild card. E-Strong Crossbows trying to get into a good position. The dwarves need to pull through, I think, and try and take out this Ballista. They don't need to really concern themselves with the Runic forces over here, but it looks like they're going to try and run, which is going to give the Rune Ballista a chance to take some more shots at the Dwarven infantry. Will they get some more shots off? I don't know, the Ballista's being awful slow.
We've captured the enemy's general.
Well, the Snaga have been chasing them.
Turn tail and run.
Well, yeah, I guess it will. The bearded elf. The yellow-bellied coward. Being caught by Snaga of all things. How embarrassing. Here are the Dunland veterans, though, forming up the first line of this assault. Not doing so well against Sons of the Fallen and First Legion pikes, but as we sort of bury the camera in these trees, the Witch-Round Blackguard are even having a few issues here. You'd imagine now that the pike formation has started to buckle, they'll start to do a little bit better. We'll see though. We'll see. The Lurtz hunting pack is loitering with intent. The Uruk-hai archers still have ammunition, although the dwarves are going to be much better at dealing with continuous arrow fire than Linden were. Guards of Orthanc going up against Mithril Guard. The Mithril Guard will win that fairly comfortably with their AP. Yeah. I don't know, it's going to be interesting this. Noldorin Blade Masters routing into the Carnival's Dragon Knights while being chased by Snaga. What's going on with the Dwarven units? Yeah, the Dwarven units are sort of scattering to the four winds over here, sort of taking out the back line of this assault. There's a lot of fight left in this yet, and the Dwarves stand a very good chance, I think, with the quality of units they have left. But I think it really does come down to how well those Dragon Knights are used. If they're used to their full effect, the Ballista also could come into play. The Nazkai are now finally being committed forwards. Mithril Guard, victory seems certain against the guards of Orthanc. Yeah, these First Legion pikes have earned their keep in a big way here. Witch-Round Blackguard being stumped by them. Sons of the Fallen obviously easily holding the Dunland clansmen and veterans from the front, just being used as a sort of makeshift assault, I suppose. What about down here? This fight has been going very slowly, and I think it's because of the way the engagements have happened. The Witch-Round Blackguard have actually pushed through the line at this point, and they're going to attack these 4th Legion Shield Guard from behind, which is going to make this fight be resolved one way or the other, presumably actually now with the addition of, well, Iron Isengard Ballista crew. The attackers should finally clean up this front line over here, you would imagine. But the problem is going to be here for the attackers, because they've got guards of Khazad-dûm and Khazad-dûm reclaimers running all over their back lines, taking out the Lurtz hunting pack at this point. Lurtz hunting pack are good in melee, but not quite as strong as the guards. Here come the Dragon Knights though, and the Nazkai, so this could be the turning point, and you can see how lethal that charge was. Scything through those Khazad-dûm reclaimers. They can't afford to stay in melee too long though. The Khazad-dûm reclaimers will bite back. And the Nazkai also doing a good amount of damage there. E-Strong Crossbows getting into position. Do the dwarves have what it takes to withstand the onslaught? It's possible. It's unlikely, but it's possible. I would say that now that the Knights are being deployed, things are going to get a bit grisly. First Legion pikes. These Witch-Round Blackguard might actually lose this fight over here. There's still some Hammer Guard left alive. Shows how long this fight's been going on for. What's going on here? The Dragon Knights. I mean, they're in sustained melee essentially with these units over here, which they need to be a bit careful of. the Nazkai doing their thing. Obviously very, very strong, the Nazkai. In decent condition at this point in the battle as well. These strong crossbows still have ammunition as well, which is more bad news for the dwarves. Not sure whether their resilience is going to be enough this time. Ooh, more crossbow bolts coming in. Some friendly fire though. The Lurtz hunting pack able to survive despite looking like they were in a pretty grim situation for a while. Uruk-hai archers getting into position, so it's going to come down essentially to this last stand over here, which admittedly actually the dwarves have managed to fight their way out of in one section, but the 3rd Legion are now going to have to fight the Nazkai, which that fight is only going to go in one direction, unfortunately. Here's the Angmar General though, in a bit of a sticky spot, surrounded by 1st Legion. There's still a lot of these Uruk-hai infantry with the armour upgrade. There's Snaga being committed forward. Yeah, the Witcher on Blackguard probably going to fall away, but I don't know, I think ultimately the dwarves just don't have enough left in the tank to see this one out. Carmel's Dragon Knights just hanging out in melee, but at this point the guards and reclaimers of Khazad-dûm probably destroyed. The Mithril Guard, however, coming downhill to assist the 3rd Legion, but I don't know. The Nazkai are probably still going to be alright, especially if they have support from the Uruk-hai archers. That extra damage could be exactly what they need to tip this fight in their favour. These Sons of the Fallen, though, still looking in very good condition indeed. As we are now into the final 10,000 frames. Let's have a look at the percentages. Well, it's dead even, but you have to remember that technically speaking the attackers will be ahead at this point because a lot of Lyndon's forces weren't actually killed. They routed off when the player admitted defeat, so Sons of the Fallen coming downhill. They are going to engage the Uruk-hai archers, try and take away Isengard's ranged advantage, but the real problem is going to be these knights, I think, because they're going to be able to charge into the back of stuff like the Mithril Guard. I think what the dwarves have to hope for is that the knights get greedy and try and charge into the pikes, which they might do. They are, and that wasn't a particularly good charge either, so this could be the dwarves' big break. Although now the Sons of the Fallen are also going to surround them, so getting out of here is not going to be easy for them. This could be the end of the knights. They've already done a lot of damage, mind you, so I mean, even on the front line there's a unit of battered 4th Legion. Kind of trapped up here at this point, the knights, but the more chaos the better, I suppose. Only 7 which are on Blackguard remaining. Carmel needs to be careful, because they're going to start to fall away at this point. Caught in the trap. I mean, at this point, you know, down here, these this Isengard Ballista Crew, the Snaga, and yeah, there goes the General. The Sons of the Fallen not going to allow the General to escape from this situation. And yeah, the Dragon Knights have fallen. They're dropping like flies at this point, so maybe a little bit of a misplay there, but the Dragon Knights have already done some substantial damage. We'll see if it's going to be enough. Amazingly, the guards of Khazad-dûm have managed to turn this fight on its head once again, and they're going to defeat the Lurtz hunting pack. Shows how resilient they are. Eastron crossbows trying to get into a good position. The Nazkai mopping up what remains of the Mithril Guard, which is really good news for the attackers. They're going to need those Nazkai to do work. The Uruk-hai archers trying to do what they can. The Angmar General fighting against these Sons of the Fallen. There are still a few Dragon Knights left alive, but that isn't going to last too long with these spears encroaching on their space. Some 2nd Legion still alive as well. If the Angmar General is to fall, you would imagine that there would be some form of morale penalty. I mean, already these Snaga are not looking like they want to continue this fight for too much longer. Sons of the Fallen. Their job now is done against the cavalry, so they're going to turn around and engage these Uruk-hai archers, which, needless to say, that fight is only going to end one way. Now, the Eastern crossbows, if they still have ammo, this could be the attacker's best hope. What happened to the Nazkai? Ah, they're over here helping out the Lurtz hunting pack. They desperately needed it. So finally the guards of Khazad-dûm will be brought down. And the Eastron crossbows do still have ammunition. That could be the saving grace for the attackers here, because they're going to need a lot of damage to be done. And the dwarves honestly don't have the manpower to survive big, meaty crossbow volleys at this point in time. Although the Uruk-hai archers are unlikely to last long, and then of course Sons of the Fallen could focus on them instead. First Legion are routing, which is odd to see, but the rest of the dwarven forces are holding out just fine. This Angmar general has been all over the place. He's still fighting hard. These Snaga surely can't last too long if the dwarves focus them down. But really, I think the dwarves are now going to have to pin their hopes on the strength of the Sons of the Fallen. And I'm not sure that's going to be enough, because the Sons of the Fallen, they are spears. They're good enough that their spear malice doesn't really matter, but the real problem is going to be the Nazkai. I don't really think the defenders, the one defender at this point, has got enough to deal with that, and that's not including the Eastron crossbows, which actually might be out of ammunition at this point. They pulled out their blades, but that's still more men that they're going to have to cut their way through. Which is going on down here. Second Legion defeat seems certain. Now victory seems certain. It's all over the place. You'd imagine the Snaga are probably going to rout at some point fairly soon. They're definitely dying quickly enough. They're in a bit of an awkward place for the dwarves to sort of smoke out though, so... Here we can see the Eastron crossbows. They are out of ammunition. It looks as though they are going to try and come down here. They'd be no match for the Sons of the Fallen, so they're just going to come down here and try and fight where they're most useful, come to the aid of their Snaga brethren. Here come the Nazkai, which I think are going to be the final nail in the coffin for the defenders. The Dwarven player has held out really resolutely and can be really pleased with their efforts, but I think the Nazkai are just going to be too much. And there's also the Ballista, which is setting up back there, which I think still does have ammunition, which is... It's a fairly easy shot into the Sons of the Fallen. There are the Nazkai. Big AP damage coming in. The Eastron crossbows have also turned around to complete the encirclement here. Yeah, I think the attackers are going to take it. But we didn't actually get to see the interior of the halls this time. This was all decided in the initial defence, which is something a bit different. Snaga skirmishes, victory is a distinct possibility. You know things have gone horribly wrong for you when you see that. But yeah, the Angmar general is still fighting. Smashing dwarves one by one. There are the Sons of the Fallen. Eastron crossbows are wavering, which, you know, could be a factor. With their little butter knives, their little daggers, or, you know, not really big enough to be a short sword, not really small enough to be a dagger, those weapons. Victory seems certain for the Sons of the Fallen still, really. Even against the Nazkai and the Lurtz hunting pack, coming in like a wrecking ball. What have we here? I mean, now the Snaga look like they're going to fall away. I mean, this is still reasonably close, and there's still a long way in this battle to go. Well, relatively speaking, there's a long way. The Ballista is kind of in place. Is there anything else I'm missing? Any red arrows that are not routing off? And on the other side over there, you can see the Noldorin Blade Masters. That's such a tragedy to see 27 Noldorin Blade Masters routing, because that would be enough to tilt this fight in favour of the defenders, I think. So it just goes to show that the Linden player admitted defeat far too early. He threw in the towel. Perhaps out of frustration that his defence had fallen, but even so, I mean, come on. Your ally managed to do this without, you know, your support in the late game. Oh, here comes the Ballista, and that could be the end. Well, the Eastron crossbow is actually routing as a result of that Ballista fire, which is pretty unfortunate for them. What's going on down here? How are the dwarves getting on? I mean, there's a decent amount of forces here, you know. And, you know, the Angmar general is now all alone with, like, basically one Uruk-hai and a couple of Snaga. So all of these dwarves are going to be able to go back up and assist, which the dwarves could still win this. more of the attackers have been killed, technically speaking. So now, I mean, those ballista shots might be a bit too much for the dwarves to bear. They need to be careful though, because if they kill too many of their own Nazkai, it's flicking backwards and forwards between defeat and victory quite a lot. That's a lot of friendly fire they're getting now. The runic ballista could be salvation or damnation at this point in time. There's also still the ballista crew to be concerned with. They may have a part to play in this, as we are now very much entering the final phases of this fight. Spearmen and axemen.
Very much in our favour. Victory will be ours.
Perhaps, I mean, the Angmar general is going to be destroyed. The 2nd Legion Axe Guard coming in. Now we'll see what the Nazkai are really worth. As they are going to take somewhat of a charge, which should do a lot of damage, considering the kind of shock troops that the 2nd Legion are. Horns blaring. The Sons of the Fallen have taken a lot of damage at this point, so... There's one Uruk-hai archer that these 4 spearmen are all trying to bring down, fighting resolutely onwards. The ballista is trying to get into a better position to shoot so it doesn't hit its own men. There's still some Eastron crossbowmen down there that have returned from routing. They're shaken, but even so, 49 soldiers at this point is something that you may very well need. The Angmar general is refusing to die in the face of all those spearmen. The Nazkai defeat is almost a certainty. Where are those Eastron crossbows? They are now coming back, and they are sorely needed actually. Every man counts. Nazkai. They're strong, but are they strong enough? That is the real question here. Are the Nazkai trying to actually get out of there and cycle charge? That would be risky. Leaving melee is going to cause damage to your own unit. The ballista is in place now, getting some nice close range hits. I mean, this might be the key to success here, because eventually all of these spearmen are going to come up here as well. The Nazkai balance of forces is evenly matched. The dwarves fighting with every fibre of their being. Very close. I've seen a lot of very close fights lately, which is good. Nice hits there. The dwarves may have what it takes. I mean, you know, the Eastron crossbows and the ballista. Again, it's hard to say, but they seem to be getting just as much friendly fire as they are getting like genuine hits, but that's routing the 2nd Legion. That's a big break for the attackers. 2nd Legion is still fighting the Angmar general. There goes the Angmar general finally, which means the 4th Legion are finally going to be able to reinforce their brethren. The Nazkai. So actually the Sons of the Fallen are going to go down with the 4th Legion. Try and form up some sort of spear wall. Make it more difficult for the ballista to do its thing. Let's go up to ×2 speed at this point. I mean, the onus is on the blue team to attack the dwarves. The dwarves are under no obligation whatsoever to move. They are the defenders in this situation, and I think they've earned the right to be the ones to be attacked here. Though even then, Fruity Lexi is going to move forward, and you would imagine that, you know, these Eastron crossbows are not going to stay in melee for all that long. They are probably going to rout. Here come the Nazkai. The Nazkai and the Sons of the Fallen reinitiating their duel. The ballista might not be able to fire in this sort of situation. We'll see. I mean, they are, but they could get friendly fire as well, which would be a devastating blow at this point. I mean, it's these 4th Legion at this point which are the problem, because they're in enough numbers that they'll beat the Eastron crossbows. And by that point, the Nazkai might be in short enough supply that the dwarves can just sort of ride them to victory. Although the Sons of the Fallen are being cut to pieces now by the Nazkai. I'm surprised these Eastron crossbows have stayed in melee, actually.
Victory will be ours.
Yeah, I think the attackers might just have this one. The ballista, just sort of loitering with intent. There are the Nazkai, utterly victorious against the Sons of the Fallen, and I think, you know, the 4th Legion have just got too much to do at this point. Even a unit of just 6 Nazkai is going to be sufficient, I think. This is going to be the end, so again we'll go up to ×2 speed to witness the final fight as it happens. Yeah, I think the Nazkai are going to be too much to deal with here. The Eastron crossbows just being cannon fodder. And even if the Shield Guard do manage to fight their way out of this, they will then have to fight their way through a ballista crew as well. It's a lot to do. And I just think the Nazkai are going to be too much anyway. Some generals. Some captains there from the crossbow unit. Sort of fancier version of the Scion Rim. Victory seems certain. One of the Nazkai has died. I mean, it's close. The 4th Legion is shaken, so I think I know how this fight's going to end. There's individual units just being put forward. One Narim, one Flagrim. They know that every man counts at this point, just sending them in. And I think this fight is ultimately going to end with the 4th Legion breaking. With a sort of point-blank ballista shot there, and yes, they do. An unfortunate way for the dwarves to be defeated, but I think they were probably going to be defeated anyway. They could have pulled that out, but I don't think so. I think there was just too much for them left to do. And that's going to be the end. So the attackers, by the skin of their teeth, take Thranduil's halls without actually damaging the halls themselves. So, ideal. Froggy doing the best, and I think that's fair. I think Isengard definitely did the best over the course of the battle. I think Angmar and Rune were very aggressive early on, which cost them pretty dearly, but ultimately maybe helped the attackers in a way. And then the defenders, obviously, Lyndon letting the side down a bit by admitting defeat too early, because all it would have taken really was for Lyndon to kill like 50 more men, which the Noldorin Blade Masters, even while they were getting hit by those arrows, probably would have done, and they would have won. But I think the Dwarven player gets to be the MVP for this one, you know, fighting their way out of a situation which looked pretty bleak, and they almost were victorious. Let's have a look here. What did the damage for Isengard? The Lurtz Hunting Pack doing well, primarily against the Lyndon units, it must be said. The Nazkai in the late game, really proving to be one of the match winners in addition to the Runic Ballista. Snaga doing okay for themselves, as did the Isengard Ballista when it had finished dealing with the Lyndon one. Yeah, the Snaga did okay for themselves. The rest of the forces struggled a bit, but in this sort of situation, that's understandable. So yeah, big thank you to Froggy for sending this one to me. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you'll join me for whatever is next, which is